Hello, this is Eric Brown, and welcome to another scene analysis. In this video, we'll be looking at a scene from The Fosters, and we'll be looking at how to shoot in a tight space. And secondarily, we'll be looking at how to use mirrors to expand that space. One of the challenges of being an independent filmmaker is you have limited resources, and you'll often be shooting in less than ideal locations. In this scene, we'll look at shooting in a bathroom, and we'll look at how mirrors can be used to give you additional shooting options. We'll also look at how you can make one shot do double duty to minimize the number of camera setups you'll need. This scene is from The Fosters. More details are in the description below. I'll talk through the scene and then I'll play it through in its entirety for you. Lena, played by Sherry Somm, and Steph, played by Terry Polo, are getting ready to leave the house and they're putting on makeup in the bathroom while having a conversation. Bathrooms are usually small and difficult to shoot in, but you can see that the director is making use of mirrors to expand the space. It makes the space look bigger than it actually is. In a space like this, you can't get in front of the actors to shoot their faces, at least not without doing some unusual blocking. And the mirrors allow us to get around this issue by showing us their reflected faces. The mirrors also allow us to create some depth in a shot that would otherwise look very flat. The backs of the women are in the foreground and their faces in the mirrors are in the background. Some directors use mirrors frequently as framing tools. Steven Spielberg in particular uses reflections frequently. He also uses circular elements in the frame. It adds some visual interest to what is typically a square frame. You can see here that the art director has chosen oval mirrors. Our eyes are drawn towards those two ovals. It's like framed photos sitting on your mantle. Now, most bathrooms have rectangular mirrors, and that's fine. The round mirrors just provide more visual interest. Getting the camera or crew in the reflection is always a concern when using mirrors, so you have to check carefully that there's no unwanted elements visible in the reflection. In a small room, you'll be very limited in terms of the number of camera setups you have available. Because they're standing in front of a wall, you only have 180 degrees of coverage at most. However, the other walls will likely limit your ability to compose a shot as well. So why does it look like they get so much coverage in this scene? Well, here's one little trick. Let's take the framing from this shot and we'll put it on this shot. We'll make it a little smaller and we'll reposition it. Can you see that this is essentially just a cutout from the larger frame? So this is only one camera setup. The camera is in the same place at the same angle, but you get two very different looking shots. And the variety adds more interest to the shot. In this case, you have one of two options. Shoot a wide frame, stop the camera, zoom in, and shoot a tighter frame. Or as an alternative, just shoot the scene once, and in your video editor, crop the wide shot around the actor's face so it looks like a close-up. If you decide to do this in post, rather than in camera, shoot the scene at the highest resolution possible, preferably 4K. You're going to lose some resolution when you enlarge the frame, and you run the risk of having a fuzzy image. By shooting at high resolution, you minimize the loss of resolution when you enlarge the image in your video editor. We see the same technique used in the other camera setup in this room. Here you see them from the side. Lena, the furthest character, is a little forward of Steph so we can see her face. Now this is exactly the same camera setup as this. The camera position and angle are exactly the same. They've just cropped the frame again so it looks like a completely different camera setup. Now here's a different angle. This is a reverse shot at about the 40-second mark, but we've already had 9 cuts with a 2-camera setup. Now, 40 seconds of static dialogue is a lot, but given the depth, the visual elements, their activity, and the frequent cuts with what seems like lots of different camera angles, it seems pretty dynamic and it keeps our interest. To do this reverse shot of Steph, another camera setup would be required. You can see that there's not a lot of room to put a camera to the right of the character, so this would be done in a separate take, and it's likely that the woman would need to step back from the mirrors a little so that Steph's face can be framed properly. Now, here's an interesting bit. We see the two women here. The framing is observing the rule of thirds. Our attention is clearly on the women and the mirrors have become just background. Now Lena leaves. and our focus changes back to the mirror as her reflection shows her leaving the room. Once again, lots of dimension in this little space, and as Lena leaves, Steph takes her mark in front of the mirror so that our focus now shifts from Lena to Steph's face. The camera pans to follow Steph, and we have one cutaway shot to a box of prenatal vitamins, which is an important plot element. When you're shooting on a limited budget and a limited time frame, you have to be creative to get the coverage you need for the edit room. In total, there are only 3 camera setups plus the insert in this scene. The cameras were fixed on tripods, and besides some very minor panning to keep the faces in frame, they don't move. This entire scene could be shot with 2 cameras in 2 takes. That's a very economic use of your time. So there are 2 things I'd like you to take away from this scene. Make use of mirrors in tight spaces. They give the scene depth and allow for some interesting blocking. Just watch that you don't accidentally end up in the mirror when shooting. And secondly, plan your shots carefully before shooting and consider using this technique in post of cutting into a frame or cropping a wider shot to give the viewer another perspective without having to move or reset your cameras. In this scene, it made 2 cameras look like 4. So that's it for the scene analysis. Let's take a look at the clip from start to finish and pay attention to the framing and how the footage is cut together. If you have any questions or would like more scene analysis like this, please let me know in the comments.
I know that today's not going to be easy for you, so anything you want.
Fine, love, I'm fine. Really.
I know, but I know that you're upset that you didn't get to talk to your dad.
You know, it is what it is. That's life, I guess. But I don't have any regrets. I have to put out the bourbon, too, for the old fashions. You sure we have enough bitters?
Yes, positive. And if we do need more bitter, I'll just ask my mom to tell stories about all the time she was passed over for tenure. I'm going to make sure the kids are ready.
Oh, listen, speaking of the kids, what do you want to do about, the whole Callie of it all?
We really don't think that this independent living thing has anything to do with Brandon, do we?
No, he said that it was over between the 2 of them. In any case, Callie's not allowed to date while she's in Girls United, so...
So we just keep an eye on them. We can do that. It's not like we have anything else going on today.
No.
I'm gonna go rally the troops.
Okay. Okay. Hey, honey, have you seen my mascara?